What's happening, guys? James Blonde here with MMOs.com with a first look at one of the most anticipated games for nearly 3 years now, and that's ArcheAge, which is developed by Exile Games and is being published in the West by Tryon Worlds. Now, if you didn't know this already, because a lot of you guys have been looking forward to this game just like I have, ArcheAge is a massive open-world sandbox fantasy-style MMORPG with a free-to-play model alongside a patron subscription option that grants you just a little bit more in the game, kind of like the way Rift is set up. So the first closed beta event just ended, and we had a massive amount of closed beta keys given away from our giveaway section, and it seems like they plan to have multiple closed beta events and then end up going to open beta because the game is actually set to launch before the end of 2014, just so you know. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Either way, I'll hop into the alpha build for the game once again, which is currently the same as the closed beta build, just with a couple of different servers, to show you guys what to expect right off the bat. But keep in mind, I'll only be able to scratch the surface on what the game offers for now. So let's first take a look at what options you have in terms of race choices and character customization options. You've got currently 4 different races to choose from. 2 from each starting continent, either Nuia for the first 2 races here, the Nuian and Elf race, or Harania for the Farron or Harani race. And later on after launch, there'll be more races introduced. Supposedly the next 2 races that are going to be added into the game are the Dwarfs and the Warborn. But anyway, as it says here, the 2 continents are hostile to each other, so depending on which race you end up choosing is going to determine where you start in the game and also who your enemies are. The first cool feature about this is, you'll also see here, that until they learn the other continent's language, they cannot converse with the opposing side. That's a neat little quirk you've got there. Thankfully, all races have male and female options, and there isn't any gender limitations to class options, so it's totally up to you. The races do, however, have 2 racial traits that may help you decide on your starting race. Now, I would say more so after you've leveled up a character or 2 and figured out what you might like to do most in this game. For example, the Nuian race here has a bonus put on their construction capabilities. They get a 30% reduction on the construction time of houses and castles. So if you're planning to really dive into the player housing aspect of ArcheAge, which is a totally reasonable option, this race may be the one worth going with. Other than that, some of the traits with the other races offer features like longer duration underwater with the elves here, and faster swim speeds as well. The Farron take less damage, which makes sense. Cats always land on their feet. They've got strong claws, which allow them to climb a little faster. The Harani are great with teleportation travel and gathering a lot of resources for building structures. So you can see that these abilities are fairly subtle, so they don't directly affect gameplay, but rather offer a higher quality of life to fit your playstyle. Now, I've got to be honest, the customization options are pretty kick-ass as they are right now, but you are limited to changes only to the face and head. You don't have any options for the physique whatsoever. So as sad as it may be, no boob sliders in ArcheAge. But that's okay, because the character models in the game look great, and it makes up for it in how you can customize your look. And of course, the options change a little according to your choice in race. So like if you were to pick the Farron, for example, you have plenty of options for the ears. Thank goodness. You can make them large or small, closer in. You can even change the angle. I can't say though, it would be pretty awesome if you could have them put their ears back and down, like if they're in a fighting stance, for example, as if they were mad, but it's not something I've actually seen in the game just yet. With the Farron, you also have fur pattern options instead of skin color, like you would with the humans and the elves, but you've got plenty of options for the hair as long as you like dreads. Well, with the Farron anyway. The other races actually give you pretty good variety, but I'm surprised though, seeing that there are so many sliders for the amount of makeup or age line intensity, that there isn't one that takes the style of hair that you choose and adds in length or even shortens it, for example. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining that it doesn't have that, just with customization on this level of detail, I'm actually surprised it's not an option. Anyway, over here on the right, you can select a preset look, which can make your selection a little easier, and you can even blend these together to make a more randomized option. Plus, if you want to tweak any particular part, you can click on any of these sections here and go into details, which pretty much give you the ultimate control over your look. That plus the combination of all the options for makeup, or paint, or even scars for that matter, Pretty awesome customization options for ArcheAge, no doubt. Plus, once you've created a character you like, you can save that appearance and load it up again on a different server, for example, or in my case, from alpha servers to the closed beta servers, because it actually saves the copy in a separate file on your computer. So that's actually a really nice feature. So originally I decided I wanted to make one character from both factions. So I started with the female Farron, mainly because I knew from the first time I saw ArcheAge, I was going to have to pick that race first. So after that, you select your starting skill set. Now, I absolutely love how they have the choices set up here. You've got 6 different options for starting skill sets. And that's the thing, they are starting skill sets. One of the coolest parts about ArcheAge is that you can venture over to the other skill sets as you level, giving you tons of variety when it comes to playstyle and a mix of skill sets that go beyond even these 6 here. There are more like 10 options. So there are actually around 120 different class combinations to come up with, so you're bound to find several that you end up liking. But as you can see, choosing your first one here is pretty awesome in that you get to see the starting spells and their effects, which, gotta be honest, is a really strong point in this game. The spell effects and animation are pretty amazing. Like the Frost Arrow alone made me choose Sorcery the first time. Gotta love that CryEngine 3. The nice thing is, as complex as the class system in the game is, it's still really easy to figure out what paths you might want to take in order to reach the in-game playstyle you're looking for. So you could go with the Battle Rage here and add in some defense and vitality for a super physical damage dealing tank, or you can be an archer that summons minions and then blinks out of the way with skills from the Shadow Play skill set. And of course, each skill set has a lot of different actives and passive skills to choose from, so it also makes sense to go down a second skill set or even a third that grants you passives that significantly help out your first or second skill set. Like a mana increase, for example, with the Sorcery, can help you with plenty of other skills, as you can imagine. Now, the other nice part is you can change your class through several NPCs in the game to better figure out what you like even later on. Now, once you've gotten that all figured out, the game starts to teach you the basics with a tutorial that is now in English dialogue opposed to Korean.
During combat, if you use a skill in your shortcut bar that has a highlighted frame, you can gain a bonus combo effect.
And the cutscenes are now in English as well, and for a while, you learn about your race's origin and the conflict that's going on. So from what I've played so far, the game actually has an interesting storyline.
It was easy to assume they were your own life, but you soon saw grand cities unlike anything on New Year. It was as though you were looking out through someone else's eyes.
Now, the controls in the game are actually very traditional, using your left click to rotate the camera and holding down right click in order to rotate your character. Plus, you've got all of your abilities on 1 through the equals key, but you can also macro out what you want to other keys if need be. It's actually built into the game. You can double tap W to go into a sprint, and the cool thing about the Farron is they get down and run on all 4s, like cats would, so it's a really cool perk for their race. Plus, the game doesn't have a separate stamina bar for sprinting. You actually use mana instead, so you have more usage, and as you progress and increase your overall mana, you can run for a lot longer time. And the thing is you'll need to, because the world map in this game is huge. Oh, and another cool thing about the sprint function is that it's also the same function that makes you swim faster, so you can swim quicker when getting places because there's a lot of water. And the swim mechanic and the water effects in the game look pretty awesome as well. And with that, you'll quickly notice that there are plenty of ways to get around in ArcheAge. The first is the windstones. You actually learn about these really early on. These allow you a movement speed boost that's not quite as fast as your sprint, but still a lot faster than your normal travel speed, at no expense to your mana. You'll see that it lasts for about 30 seconds. And the nice thing is the way they're set up on the map here, you can run past a second one and activate it on the way to keep the effect going, and so on. This is a really nice luxury to have in such a huge open world. The Nuya side, however, has Strength Almighty as a counterpart to the Windstones, but they work exactly the same way. You'll also notice that basically everyone has a mount, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute, but the really cool feature here is the ability to hitch a ride with other people and actually share their mounts. It's great if you're needing to get to another area and, say, your friend knows exactly where you need to go. You can just basically AFK and be chauffeured around. The only drawback is that anyone can come up and jump on your mount. They can't actually take it, but, for example, I have no idea who this is, but I guess he just wants a ride. This also works really well when you're in a group because you can actually ping the map to show your party where you want to go or where do you want to meet. Plus you can see them on the map as well, so you know where all of your party members are. Easy to get to each other. And then you have ships of all shapes and sizes, from crazy looking airships like this to smaller party ships like this that take several players at once to operate correctly. All the way to personal boats, which you get really quickly playing as a Nuian. But apparently getting your ship from one body of water to the next is as easy as firing a harpoon into the earth and reeling it in, over and over again. I actually have no idea what they're doing, but it's kind of cool knowing that you can do this, whatever this is. And the crazy thing is, I think they're a long way from water, actually. And these are just some of the ships in the game that I've seen so far. There are plenty more to check out. Now, the game also has a public transportation option as well in just certain areas of the world. So I can definitely see where that comes in handy. And then you've got the signature personal gliders that everybody's seen. Once you get one of these, you can climb to a high spot and then glide a long way. It may not be the fastest, but they are definitely fun, that's for sure. Plus, as an added bonus, you can customize the way your glider looks in the cash shop, which is pretty cool. Kind of like a skin. But let's get back to the mount. At level 9, you pick up a quest that instructs you to raise your mount, and that's exactly what you have to do, which it doesn't take that long, nor is it hard, but you do have to have the correct resources like food and water. Meaning you've got to get this thing called Vita Seed, which they give you in the quest, and then you plant that, then you grow it, which takes a little bit of time, then you harvest that, give your mount water, and do a couple more things, and then you get it to the adult state at which it becomes your mount. And there are a lot of different mounts in the game, and you get a free one as part of the quest to raise it, but you can choose between 3 different color patterns. For the Firin, it's a snow lion, which I think is actually the coolest looking mount in the game. But in a sense, you could be a cat riding another cat, which is a bit odd. Now, the cool thing is your mount levels up as you use them, and they level up fairly quickly, giving you access to several different abilities that you can do later on at high levels. So you'll actually be able to do a few mounted combat attacks, some dashes, and just various mount attacks. Plus, your mount also, this is my favorite part, has its own speed boost that lasts about 10 seconds, and it only has about a 30-second cooldown. Not only that, but they also act as your pet, so they follow you around, and I've even seen other people use them to carry materials, but I also think that you have to have specific mounts for that, like donkeys, for example. One other cool aspect of the mounts is that you can get specific gear for them that helps their stats in terms of defense, health, and overall movement speed. You can get leg guards, you can get a saddle, and you can get headgear, all with different qualities and attributes, of course. And I can't say it does make your mount look pretty badass in the process, but then again, so does all the gear that you get for your character. Now, your mount does take damage though, so you have to be careful. Sometimes enemies will attack you and hurt your mount, so you have to have special health potions in order to heal them, or just like your characters, they heal over time. In fact, some of the gear that you can get for your mount actually helps their regen time for their health. They do also take fall damage, so you have to be careful, and if your pet happens to die, you can resurrect them, but they have 1 HP and either a 30 or 40% reduction in speed, so you have to go to the stable vendor and have them heal your pet back to full health, and the higher the pet level, the more expensive that gets. So let's talk a little bit about the combat system in the game. It is in fact a tab targeting type system, not so much action style. However, like I mentioned before, the skill animations and effects are done really well, and there are a lot of things that make the combat really fun, regardless of it not being action based. Now, the combat system in this game is mainly about the customizable combos and strategies using your abilities, which is honestly really easy to use. You learn skills pretty quickly right off the bat, and you learn a few of them at a time. So by level 10 or so, you've got 5 skills other than your basics, plus a passive or 2. And as you continue to level, the game notifies you as to which skills rank up and become stronger, and they do so automatically, so you never have to go back and upgrade them manually, which is nice. So when you attack with your skills, you can watch your hotbar and look for skills that highlight to add into the combo. This will deliver bonus damage as well as cut down the casting time, so some skills like Freezing Arrow might have a long casting time, whereas Endless Arrow here is instant and basically has no cooldown. So what I like to do, as an example, with this skill combination is to start out with Piercing Shot that applies a bleed. Then I hit them with a Charged Bolt. Now, I do this starting out at max range. Then I use Endless Arrow a few times, or at least until they close the gap for me to use Overwhelm and Rapid Strike, which are my melee attacks. Then I repeat the process if necessary, but otherwise, this works pretty well. There are plenty of different combinations like I was mentioning earlier, but the combat never gets boring in my opinion. And as you progress, you pick up a variety of weapons to use, and you actually have multiple types of weapons equipped at the same time. Like you might have a one-handed sword with a shield as well as a bow. And on top of that, you have an instrument equipped as well that will speed up your health and mana regen when played. Higher quality instruments, of course, give you better regen speeds. And I would say questing in the game doesn't get boring quick either. Of course, you still have the go kill 5 or 10 enemies and then go talk to this NPC, quests like that, but that's another thing, is the mobs you face also have slightly different AIs. Some mobs are more aggressive than others, and some will cause other enemies to aggro as well. And you can actually get overwhelmed pretty easily in this game. So the game is actually challenging, and it seems like the AI it varies according to the mobs. The other quests are pretty unique. Like this one here has you help with the construction of a home, which of course player housing is a huge part of the game, as well as take a look at a model home showing you that this is basically what you can have in this game. And likewise, it's also really cool that nearly every little thing in this game is interactive. So whether it's a stool or a campfire or a lantern or whatever it may be, it makes it that much more immersive to play. And I've got to admit the questing interface is set up absolutely perfect. You've got these arrow indicators around your character that show what direction and also how close your various quests are. So when taking a look at the cash shop, it's based around cosmetic items only, so there's nothing here that's pay to win. You don't even have to buy inventory expansions, which is really nice. The only thing is the game runs on a labor point system, so you earn labor points as you play the game, and you recover 1 point every 5 minutes when you're in-game. As far as I can tell, I'm actually a premium status player, so mine is a bit different, but I'll get to that part in a second. But everything you do in the game requires labor points, almost like a form of currency. So you'll notice if you mine some ore, you use labor points. If you harvest a plant, you use labor points. If you open a coin purse to get gold, something that the enemies drop, you use labor points. Now, ArcheAge is really about the late game materials, so like building your house, your ship, and crafting just about anything. Oh, and farming too, can't forget that. So as you progress later on in the game, the things that you do, like these things I just mentioned, cost more and more labor points. So even though you generate labor points building your house or ship later on, it may take you forever due to the fact that you may be waiting on your labor points to regenerate. This can be a real big problem if you're a non-premium member, which they refer to as patron status. This grants you in-game boosts like improved labor regen of 10 points per 5 minutes while in-game. And then they also have this bonus of 5 per 5 minutes when you're logged off. You're not even in-game. Basically eliminating the problem that I just mentioned. It gets you experience bonuses and the ability to own a house or farm. So, yeah, you can't even own a house or land unless you have patron status. So, the non-premium labor point recovery won't affect the house part, but it might actually make it hard to do other things without that limitation. But at the same time, for those who want to play the game for free, it still has a boatload of stuff to offer. Now the patron system works a lot like Rift for those of you who are familiar with that. So I can say if you're really wanting to get into ArcheAge, the patron system is probably the way to go. It is a monthly subscription option, but you get a lot of bonuses. Anyway guys, hopefully that gives you a nice introduction to ArcheAge. There is so much to do in this game, and I feel that it really is the ultimate sandbox MMO. Finally, we have an awesome MMORPG that is built on the CryEngine 3 with DirectX 11 capabilities. Thank goodness. I mean, this game is badass. There's no lesser way for me to say that. I'll definitely be playing more for sure, and hopefully soon I'll be able to see you guys in the game, as they recently announced the second closed beta weekend for July 30th through August 4th. So definitely keep an eye out for our second closed beta giveaway at MMOHuts.com, and for more information, be sure to check out the ArcheAge game profile at MMOHuts.com. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and until next time, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.